Xerxes' invasion of Greece. When Xerxes set out to invade Greece, after great preparations, all geographically described by Herodotus, his enormous army crossed the Hellespont, North Sea, and landed in Thrace, Caledonia. His first rendezvous of importance was at Dorsicus, a town on the sea, with a protected bay near the well-known promontory Serachum. The Persian king marched overland, partly along the coast, and the fleet, when it arrived there, breached their ships on the sands of this adjoining bay. Among other features of this place was a fort, or castle, built by Darius, and the river Hebrus, swift-flowing, poured into the bay. It lay opposite the island of Thasos, the Holy Island, otherwise Samothrace, the former seat of the hierarch, or as I have claimed, Ur of the Chaldees. In the poetic description of Homer, the god Poseidon watched the battle between the Greeks and the Trojans from the Samothrace height. Wandering, he viewed the battle where he sat, aloft on wooded Samos' topmost peak, Samos of Thrace, where Ida's heights he saw, and Priam's city and the ships of Greece. On the mainland, by Doriscus, stood two Samothracian forts named Sale and Zone, and beyond this region, adjoining the land of the Sicilians near to Samothrace itself, was another coastal headland named Stryme. I would identify the area through which Xerxes marched first as Caithness, where facing Orkney stands the town of Thurso, the port for Stromness or Kirkwall. Orkney, so the wooded height, Samos' topmost peak, was accordingly Ward Hill of Hoy, the commanding height of the Orkneys overlooking Caithness opposite. It towers 1,565 feet on the island of Hoy, the high meaning the holy or the sacred height, from whose topmost peak a splendid vista of the North Sea may be obtained, thus lending point to Homer's poetic license of distance. On the mainland of Orkney, by Stromness and Stenness for miles around, are the vestiges of former main roads, crisscrossing, evidence of a prehistoric habitation on a considerable scale, covering several miles on both banks of the Loch Harry and Stenness. Today they are but sparse signs of human occupation, beyond a few farms, fishermen's dwellings, and the odd private residence dotted around here and there. Stromness, the nose of Stroma, takes us to the little island of Stroma, which now lies about 2 miles off the coast of Caithness, in the Pentland Firth, between the two great promontories Dunnet Head and Dansaby Head, the former answering to the site of Saharam Point, the most northerly headland along this rocky shore. It would seem that in time Xerxes, the present island of Stromna, was Stryme on the mainland, but here the great Atlantic waves have invaded the shore and eaten their way in slowly but unceasingly. Stromna lies within the 10-fathom line, and generally that line may be taken to indicate the former coastline. Thurso answers to the situation of Doricus, as described so fully by Herodotus. Only the place names have changed, owing to their occupation for so long by Norsemen and Scythians, who probably gave Thurso its name after their war god Thor or Dor. It has a strong stream, the Thurso River, which empties into the Thurso Bay, but Castletown, a small busy town 5 miles east of Thurso, answers better to the site of Doriscus. The ancient castle may originally have been that erected by Darius himself. Many prehistoric ruins of castles exist in the region. The remarkable characteristic of this part of Caithness, and, as already stressed, of Stromness and Orkney, is the presence of a series of former, almost chessboard-like straight and criss-cross roads, indicating a once considerable population in these now deserted parts. From Thurso to Castleton, and from the latter for a further 2 miles at least southward along the direct road to Wick on the east coast, are indications of a great number of main roads, with criss roads diverging towards the shores and centred around Castleton. Furthermore, the route between the town and Wick, a distance of almost 21 miles, shows indications of former habitations in the same way, though more spread about, as though a suburb or a large ghostly city. Wick, the county town, presents a similar indication of a series of criss-cross roads stretching over 8 miles northwards along the coast, and Wick itself extending some 2 miles inland, again in the north-east coastal area from the small town of Dunnet to St John's Point. All are indications of another town of size. All this region, be it added, is studded with Pictish houses or brocks. There are literally dozens in this part of the world, all erected as both fortresses and dwellings. They may represent what Herodotus describes as Cimmerian castles. The Pictish broch or tower at Musa in the Shetlands stands about 100 feet high, shaped like a dice cup and containing apartments reached by a circular stair which ran to the top, and the broch at Bura in the Orkneys, 40 feet in diameter, with walls 12 feet thick at its foundations. These are characteristics of many. Some others are underground, Picts houses, cone-shaped, as near Kirkwall, Orkney, which rise as green mounds above the surface. Some built of uncemented stone and apparently used as a place of refuge. The strange thing is that such have not been traced outside of Britain, and their ghostly presence further denotes a considerable population in this prehistoric age, but they were depopulated by the Great Catastrophe and subsequent climate changes. Caithness also possesses the greatest number of cromlechs, or stone altars, in Britain, these belonging to the same age as the refuge caves or the weems. In most situations, says Wise, who made a close study of these dwellings, little stone houses were built underground. Middens show that they were inhabited in the Bronze Age. The name of Caithness may give some idea of their owners or founders. Professor Waddell, in his search for the origins of the Aryan civilization, claims that Caithness and Sutherland were named Catúth, land of the cat, the lion breed, and as Cati or Chati or Cassi, whose chief was called Ducat, the duke or the dukes of the tribe, a title formerly borne by the earls and dukes of Sutherland. He traces their origin to the Shetlands and thinks their capital was originally at Lunasting, on the northeast of the Shetland mainland, with a headland named Caithness. He says was derived from the Cata or the Caithness, the nose of the cat. The Kattegat, the entrance to the Baltic, was the gate of the cat. Waddell goes further than this to trace their origins. They were, according to his researches, the old ruling race of Syro-Phoenicians, known in the Old Testament as Hittites or Hittites, and were Arya, the noble ones, the men of renown, the true Aryans. They were tall, fair complexioned, blue eyes, and wore Pygarian caps and boots with turned-up toes, and were related to the Goths or Getae. They might be properly Scythians, the race of Magog, according to the early Scandinavian writer Johann Magnus, who says that King Sven ruled over the Gotha in Sweden shortly before the flood. Descended from the original Thracian or Titan stock, they called themselves Goth, our word God, like the Chaldeans, the Chaldee, the children of God, whose hierarchy was the Gad, or God, to whom Moses referred to in the highest terms. and he provided the first part for himself, because there in the portion of the lawgiver was he seated, and he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Lord and his judgments within Israel. The Gad executed his judgments from Ur of Chaldees, otherwise Samon of Thrace, Orkney. From these self-same parts originated the tribe known in the scripture as the Heth or the Hittites, who became the Macedonians. Northern Scotland nowadays, relatively unproductive due to its extensive wild mountain ranges and the deterioration in climate, offers little comparison with the prehistoric ages. Caithness possesses nearly 439,000 acres, of which only 1/4 are productive. Most of the soil is bare, moorland or forest. A number of cattle and hardy sheep are reared in spite of the chilly climate and insufficient sunshine. But contrast with this what it must have been in a pristine age when the bare spaces were fruitful, where today ghostly indications of former streets, lanes, squares and surviving dwellings intimate an age of activity, and the importance when these parts might as well have been described as the very hub of the universe. In Xerxes' time, its power had greatly waned. Although we know from Herodotus and Thucydides that Thrace had formerly many important cities, Thrace declined after the destruction of Samothrace, and Macedonia, south of the Moray Firth, in due time became the paramount world power after the overthrow of Persia.